Hello, scientists. I am Mr. Shea from the Ridgefield Library, and today we're going to talk about ice. And we're going to do a fun ice experiment. So before we talk about ice, we're going to talk about liquids and solids. You might have heard those words before at school. Basically, a liquid is something that flows, something that takes the shape of whatever container it's in. So if I pour a liquid, let's say milk, into a small glass, it'll take the shape of that glass. If I then pour the milk from that small glass into a bowl, it's not going to stay glass shaped, it's going to fill the bowl. So that means it fills whatever container it's in. But solids keep their form, whatever you put them in. So if I put a solid, let's say a carrot, inside that glass, it would stay carrot shaped. It would not become a glass shaped carrot. So water is a liquid, but when water gets cold enough, it becomes a solid. So it keeps its shape. And we call solid water ice. The point when water becomes cold enough to freeze is called the freezing point. And that is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So our experiment today is going to answer the question, will adding different ingredients into water change the freezing point? To answer this question, I am going to take 3 containers of water. I'm going to add salt, baking soda, and cornstarch to them. And I'm going to see if they take longer or a shorter amount of time to freeze than a container with just plain water. If you're doing this program through the Ridgefield Library, you'll receive these 4 containers and the salt, baking soda, and cornstarch all in a kit. I also added a drop of food coloring to each one, and that is for an art project we will do after our water is frozen. I am going to use 2 spoonfuls of water. If your family has a tablespoon or a teaspoon, you can use that to measure the water more exactly. You want the same amount of water in each container. Once my water mixtures are all ready, I will put them in the freezer. And now I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to set mine for half an hour to start off with. And then once the timer goes off, I will go and check on them. And as you can see here, I'm going to write down anything I notice. You can keep repeating this cycle, setting the timer, checking on your experiment, and writing down anything you notice until you feel like you are done. For me, I ended my experiment after 12 hours when the salt water had still not frozen. If we think back to the question we asked way back at the beginning of this experiment, it was, can we change the freezing point for water by adding an ingredient to it? And the answer is yes. When we added the salt, especially to the water, it did not freeze the way that the water without the salt froze. It stayed liquid. Now that I've finished with my science experiment, I'm going to turn my ice into an art project. So for this, you'll need to get a big bowl or something that you don't mind getting wet. And then you'll use a very thick piece of paper and set your ice cubes on the paper to melt. You can either let them melt on their own, or if you want to get nice and messy, you can use your hands to spread the ice cubes around, and it's sort of like finger painting, back in the good old days. I hope you had fun, and if you want to learn even more about ice and other solids and liquids and other cool science things, we have some awesome books available to check out from the Ridgefield Library. We'll see you next time. Bye.